Welcome to Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston, PhD. Glenn has held his doctorate in psychology for more than 30 years and is also a former multi-million-dollar consultant to the big food industry and uses his experience to help you defeat your cravings. This show will help you to focus on dramatically reducing cravings and leave the diet mentality behind, so you can more easily and effortlessly achieve your health, fitness, and body composition goals. Please remember, no doctor-patient relationship is created via this show, and you are responsible for confirming any changes to your diet, health, or psychological routines with an appropriately licensed professional before implementing them. Now, before we get started, if you haven't yet downloaded the free smartphone app to access dozens of these recordings all in one place, as well as to avail yourself of a confidential community for support, motivation, and assistance, please visit the podcast link on defeatyourcravings.com as soon as possible. And now, here's your host, Dr. Glenn Livingston.
Hey, it's the very good Dr. Glenn Livingston with DefeatYourCravings.com, and I'm here with Yvonne, one of my favorite master coaches. How are you, Yvonne?
I'm doing great.
And you had something you wanted to talk to me about today.
Yes. This actually came up. I observed some things recently about myself, and I heard someone else talking about the trouble of getting started with their goals because they were so far away from this ideal goal weight. They thought they might never get there. They've struggled so many times before. I had thought about the difference between enjoying the journey versus counting the days to this magical goal that we seem to set for ourselves. And that could be goal weight, maybe whatever the goal is, getting to a wedding date or how many days we're binge free. I kind of personally stumbled across the concept of enjoying the journey by accident, even though I'd heard you talk about it, because I thought it was too difficult to lose weight in menopause. So I thought, why even try to lose weight? So when I did lose weight almost effortlessly, just from removing the binging, I set out to figure out exactly how I could enjoy the process to continue it on, because it seemed pretty easy at first once I stopped binging. And I thought, well, what does that look like? What does it mean for me personally? And I was very intent on enjoying everything about my life now that this destructive habit was gone, as I was making an effort to flood my body with nutrition at a slight caloric deficit, so that when I got to this goal weight, I was already enjoying where I was. I didn't have to all of a sudden refocus. How do I keep it off? That kind of thing. So what happened was recently I created some new exercise habits for myself, some new goals for myself. But really what I wanted to do was see if I could make this a lifelong change, because exercise for me comes and goes. I have always struggled with it. I could lose weight with some exercise, but I never stuck with anything long term. Lifelong was the key. So I used my previous experience in losing 30 pounds towards my new challenge, my new goals. But there really wasn't a true goal. So when I began to see all of a sudden some significant changes in my body composition, one day my focus immediately changed from enjoying this journey to all of a sudden some goal. Like, oh, if I can make this change, I can make better changes. And my focus was immediately almost obsessive about some goal. Well, I recognized what was happening almost immediately, refocused. No, this is about a lifelong change that I want to make. I don't want to have this hyper-focused exercise mentality so I burn out and then have to reface this all over again. My goal is actually to the day I die. So I want to enjoy these changes until the day I die. And so I thought, there's a lot of similarities with binge eating, with exercise, but I wanted to talk specifically about enjoying the journey versus counting the days. The counting the days can be anything from the days to my goal, or the days that I'm struggling in order to get to my goal, like putting an X on the calendar when I binge. Oh, those are the bad days, or restarting the clock again so I can have this long streak, versus learning how to enjoy the journey. If we make that our first goal, our first priority, just the differences in, I think, the joy of the daily process of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish for your life. That's mostly the thoughts I had, and I wanted your thoughts and feedback.
I have plenty, but I'm curious if you found any practical tips for actually enjoying the journey. I don't disagree with anything you said. I think it's all critical. But when you actually had that recognition, you started to shift, I'm sure that there were periodic struggles to pull you back to focusing on the goal. And I'm wondering if you have any tips for people about how to stick with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a big part of it is the tools that we offer at Defeat Your Cravings. They work well with the process. So when we start creating rules for ourselves, the refutations are designed to process the thoughts, those negative thoughts that we have about what is it that's keeping us from following this well thought out plan. And I really think that the tools that we give just work well with this concept. So, for example, for me, for this lifelong change I wanted to incorporate, that was actually based on my reasons why, not some goal, not some body shape, not some weight on the scale. My reasons were I wanted to move better as I aged. I may have aches and pains as I age, but exercise can help with that. I just want to continue to age well and feel good about myself and all of the things that come with exercise. So for me, it was the reasons why. When I recognized what was happening and I was able to refocus, it was based on the reasons why I had that specific behavior in mind in the first place. Does that answer your question?
Yes. May I say a couple of things?
Please.
So, first of all, I really appreciate you making yourself vulnerable and sharing your own journey like this and how you've discovered this. You could think of the focus on the goal alone without the recognition of the enjoyment of the journey as a squeal. It's almost like your food monster is saying, you don't really deserve to love yourself before you've arrived. You're not worthy of love. You're not worthy of enjoyment. You're not worthy of happiness until you hit a certain number on the scale. That's clearly a squeal, right? Which can be refuted because I'm worthy of love because I'm here consistently for the people that I'm love. I'm worthy of love because God doesn't make any junk. I'm worthy of love because I show up and I try. Or I'm worthy of love because when I am with someone, I'm present to the best of my ability. Worthy of love just because I am, because I was born into this world with constructive energy and the ability to think about what I want to do for others and do for myself, and how to make the most of these 2 lungs and 2 arms and 2 legs and 2 feet that I have. Every day, I'm going to do my best to seize the day because I am worthy of love, and it doesn't matter whether I'm at my goal or not. And I'm present for my children, I'm present for my spouse, I'm present for my family, I'm present for my friends. Mostly I'm present for myself, and that's why I'm worthy of love, not because the scale has a particular weight on it or not. There's that refutation that you can work on every time that the squeal comes up. But then there are so many non-scale victories. Like you were saying, the tools themselves that create a type of mental calmness. The fact that you can see that you were under the thumb of this destructive set of thoughts to be reckoned with until you realize that's what was happening and that there was a way to get out from underneath the thumb of them and take back control. That's an extraordinarily calming, empowering experience to have. And you can take joy in that by itself. You can take joy in recognizing that you can breathe your way through an urge. You can take joy in knowing the ability to use your rational mind is impacted by how well you take care of your body otherwise, and flood your body with nutrition at a slight caloric deficit and get enough sleep and get enough water and self-regulate in the way that you want to. I think the time this became most clear to me, it was actually an insight that my former partner had. He said, if your whole purpose in life is to get to your goal weight, then when you get to your goal weight, you won't have any purpose in life, right? And I just thought, holy crap. That's absolutely true. And there's something about focusing on that goal. It's good to have a goal. It's good to have a goal because a goal points you in a direction, and it's even good to assign an approximate date to that goal because, a goal without a date is usually just a dream. It's good to have that, but the obsessive focus on the goal is the antithesis of being present in your life. And time goes by while you obsessively focus on the goal and keep telling yourself that you don't matter, you're not worth it unless you're really getting to goal or you're at goal. And you kind of wake up and say, well, where did those last 5 years go? Where did those last 10 years go? There is a very powerful bliss in the present moment, and it requires that you be rather than pursue. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I would say for myself, it wasn't at all about feeling that I wasn't worthy of love. And I know for a lot of people that can be an underlying squeal that needs to be dealt with.
Was for me.
At this particular point, it was, for example, when I first started to lose weight after I stopped binging with the tools that we give, and I didn't think I could. Like, I did not think I could lose weight. It kind of scared me at first because my thought was if I could lose a few pounds just by stopping binging, I could lose a lot more by going back to fasting. That was scary. So I was determined to not push myself to see how much or how fast I could lose weight. Just stop the destructive behaviors. That's my lifelong goal, is to not binge anymore, not destroy myself, not hurt myself with food. But in the process, not only did I lose 30 pounds, I gained a lot of confidence. I felt good about myself. It took me a year to lose the full 30 pounds. Initially, the first 20 came off pretty quickly for me. And then it took several more months to slowly lose the next 10. And I've maintained that pretty well for the last almost 4 years. So this new goal of exercise, I wanted to approach the same way. So when I started to see some significant changes in my body as a 56-year-old woman, being content, not just content, but like, wow, I look pretty good in shorts. It kind of got me in this for a moment, like if I can look this good, how good could I look in a bikini? I'm not even saying that there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look good in a bikini. But that thought took me away from the reason that I did this in the first place, which was to create a lifelong goal of loving exercise, keeping it in my life because it's good for me mentally, it's good for me physically. It does make me a better person, well-rounded in the other areas of my life. It forces me to focus on caring for myself so I can be there for other people.
What kind of exercise do you like?
I like lifting heavy.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It feels so good. Now, I don't know if you know, I recently did a 5K. I'm a runner, want to be, because I love the runner's high, but I never stick with it ever. So every once in a while, I'll challenge myself. And I did a 5K recently, but I prefer lifting heavy. I love how it feels. I absolutely love it. But with that comes other challenges, understanding and making sure I'm well nourishing my body to sustain that kind of exercise. That's kind of what I was aiming for with enjoying the journey versus counting the days. So let's say, for example, the 30 pounds, going back to the 30 pounds, if it took me 5 years to lose 30 pounds and I did not harm myself with food, I didn't binge, I took care of myself, I was healthy, and my doctor loved where I was going, then so be it, 5 years. That's so much better than trying to force something or being overwhelmed with not being able to learn from any of my mistakes. And I think that's one of the key things too, when we get so focused in on either the goal, and I can say this for myself and a lot of people that I coach too, being frustrated with how many mistakes they've made, they lose sight of how to make this a lifelong change. Lifelong, permanent. I don't want to hurt my body. The goal of losing weight, secondary. And a lot of people that I talk to that struggle with food in some capacity for a year or more, when we get down to it, they are nothing like they were a year ago. They're in such a better place. And I think when we put these hard goals on ourselves, sometimes we forget how far we've actually come. I think that can be very beneficial to the enjoying the journey process.
I love it.
You have any other thoughts on that?
Duh, I don't.
I hope I didn't deter from what you were saying.
No, you outsmarted the very good Dr. Glenn Livingston. I think it was brilliant, and I appreciate you sharing it. What do you do about the muscular gains in terms of weight? Because it's not purely your weight that determines your body composition. How do you manage that?
Well, I'm still early on this journey, so I'm still learning stuff about myself. I just use the average for my height, exercise. I use the weight range and recognize there's the low end of the weight range, there's a high end of the weight range. I don't want to go to the extreme either way. I know going to the high end, I don't really feel that good about myself. And I don't want to go to the low end. It doesn't seem to be a healthy range for me, although I've never been there, so I don't really know. But gaining muscle and losing fat can be tricky. I use the scale to judge, like if I start to drop weight really fast, and I don't feel well, I'm clearly not eating enough. And so I just have to kind of monitor that pretty much every day as I go along.
And if you start to gain weight pretty quickly, you're probably not putting on a pound of muscle a day.
Yeah. A pound a day or over the course of 2 days might not really mean anything. So it's really about
It's the trend.
yeah, you have to really focus on the trend. I already know how to deal with the scale squeals. I love to say there are 3 different kinds of scale squeals.
Oh, tell me, what are the scale squeals?
Yeah, if you lose weight, no matter what the reason is you've lost weight, the squeal can be, oh, look, you've lost weight. You deserve to break your rules, indulge your cravings. You can afford to lose. You've been so good. Or you've lost weight and look what you ate. You can afford to eat more. Let's keep going. Especially if somebody broke their rules. Maybe they even binged and they lost weight. Now, I think there is something to learn from that for sure. Because if you binged and you lost weight, maybe you weren't eating enough to start with. But there's squeals around that. If you maintained weight, it could still be, oh, look, you ate such and such food and you didn't gain. You thought you were going to gain. Therefore, you can indulge your cravings, eat a lot more, go ahead and binge. And then, of course, there's if you gained weight, oh, look, this isn't working. Just give up your plans or restrict so you can diet down super fast and get this weight off, which can have its own set of consequences. So there are all kinds of scale squeals. I think we have to recognize any time we step on the scale, you're going to be presented with a squeal. The scale squeals don't affect me anymore. I only use it as feedback.
I can think of a fourth kind of a scale squeal.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
You only gained X amount. I knew this woman who would go have a big binge and she'd run home and find that she gained less than a pound. Her pig was really excited about that, except that it talked her into doing that over 100 times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. It can be a sneaky one too.
Yes. So only gaining 1 pound 100 times still makes you 100 pounds overweight.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks, Yvonne.
You're welcome.
And that brings us to the end of today's broadcast of Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston. Now, if you'd like to find out more about the products and services Dr. Glenn offers to help you dramatically reduce your cravings and stop overeating in 90 days or less, please visit defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. That's defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. Thanks.